Alright, so it's time for another one-day build, and today the one-day build is getting me really excited because today what we're going to build is a time tracking tool, or basically an automatic time tracking tool using Python. What this is going to be able to do is basically, the plan at least, is for it to be able to automatically track whatever like application we're using, whatever website we're on, and basically give us a time spent on each task. That's kind of the idea, to automatically track where you're at when you're on the computer and then kind of display that. I think we're going to just use a JSON file for now and just display the data, save the data somewhere so that we then can use that in whatever way we want. And the idea is for me to then create this script and then upload it to GitHub so that you can then download it and use it for whatever you want, because then you'll have the JSON data and you'll be able to then display it in whatever way you want to display it, whether you want to make a website for it or whether you want to make just an app for it. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. So that's going to be the task for today. I think I'm also going to make a second video like in company to this one, where I will actually make a Flutter app just locally on my computer, where I'll actually display this JSON data in some sort of like visual way, so like a graph or something like that. So yeah, that's what we're building today. Alright, so what we're going to start with is trying to figure out kind of what requirements are needed for this build, or what the requirements are for this build. And this is something that I like to do at the start of each build, just to kind of get an idea of what I have to do and break down each task. And this kind of helps simplify the process for me so that I can focus my energy on separate tasks and not just kind of try to attack the whole thing. And also the app that I'm using is called Evernote. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people have been commenting what app I'm using when I'm doing these sort of requirements or note-taking things. All right, so we'll start with that, and then we'll see where we'll get started once we have the requirements done. All right, so these are the requirements that I've come up with, and I made this a little bit more detailed than I usually do, just to kind of give you a bit more of an insight into kind of the way that I'm thinking about this. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. So basically, this is the main goal of this task, is to automatically track time spent on different sites or apps. And then I divided this into sub-goals. And one of the sub-goals is to differentiate between different projects. So the thing is that you might be working in the same app for several different projects, and it would be nice to then be able to actually differentiate between the different projects so that we can track time for those projects separately. And then we also want to differentiate between different sites, and that's the same principle here. Maybe you're on YouTube or you're on Stack Overflow. You're probably going to be doing two completely different things on the different sites, and so you'd want to track specifically what you're doing on Stack Overflow, or the time spent on Stack Overflow and the time spent on YouTube. And then what I created is a focus category or something here, where basically this is going to be the focus of today's one-day build. So what we want to focus on is track time spent on email. So basically, since I started this YouTube channel, I've been getting a lot more emails, so I've been spending a lot more time on email. So what I want to be able to do is basically track all the time spent on there. And that's actually the reason that I came up with this idea, because usually I've tried to actually use like a timer or something like that to time myself when I'm on Gmail. But the thing is that I'm usually on there for like a minute, maybe 10 minutes at most. And it's not really worth it to start the timer if you're just going to be on there for like 30 seconds and then stop the timer. So basically, being able to track just how much time I spent on Gmail truly, then that would be a really good help. And then the second focus of this video is just being able to track how much time is spent in Visual Studio Code. And then down here we have all the requirements to be able to achieve our focus for today's one-day build. The first one is we need to be able to monitor where the user is, so monitor the activity of the user. And what that needs to be able to do is it basically needs to be able to see what website is being used and what app is being used. Then the next thing is going to be to start a timer whenever we open up an app or site. And then we need to be able to save the data to a JSON file. And the good thing about JSON is that you can use it for so many different things. And like I said, I might actually build a Flutter app for this, where I create a UI for the script and kind of display the JSON data or the time spent on different things in a nice UI with bar charts and different things like that. So that's going to be something that I will hopefully do fairly soon. And the last thing, it needs to be able to actually run in the background so that it's actually able to constantly track everything that you do. Ideally, it would run as soon as you start up the computer, so you don't have to actually run it yourself. Yeah, so those are the requirements that we need to get done today. And we're going to start with just trying to figure out how to monitor the activity of the user, so where the user is. And currently, I don't really know how to do that, so I'm going to have to start Googling and see if we can figure it out. This is what I just wrote now, so I haven't tried this, but what this basically should do is it should run constantly as soon as I start running it. And what it will do is it will get the name of the active window, and if this name is different than the previous name, then it will print the active window name. So essentially when we run it now, it should print terminal, and now it should now print whatever this code, yeah. And then if we go here, it might print like Chrome or something. Yeah, Google Chrome. All right, so we're actually able to now monitor which windows we're using. Now we need to see what website is being used. So that's going to be the next step, is to get the specific website that we're using. All right, so now I think I may have solved the problem of actually seeing what the current URL that's being used is. And that was it was a difficult problem to solve. And the way that I was able to solve it was basically by using AppleScript. And what you do then is you give certain commands and it will then do certain things. I don't understand it at all. This took me a while to figure out, but I got this, which now gets the current URL being used. So that means that if we run it, it will say terminal, but then if we go here, let's just go to YouTube. So right now it printed terminal, then it prints Google Chrome, and then it printed that we were opening a new tab, which is what we were doing. And now it prints Google Chrome and the URL, so what actual site we're using. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, because it was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And that seems like that's kind of the trend for all of these one-day builds. They always end up being way harder than I think they're going to be. Okay, so we can see what website is being used, so that's good. And we can see what app is being used, so that's good. So we're able to now monitor the activity. So that part is done. The next part is going to be to start a timer when a site opens up or an app opens up. I think I'm going to go to the gym now, actually, because it's 1:15 p.m. and yeah, I need to just take a break, eat something, and come back to it in a minute. All right, that's what happened. I pretty much spent the last 3 hours, it's 3 p.m. right now, basically doing nothing, just wasting my time. I didn't eat, I didn't go work out, I just basically sat on my phone, got stuck there, and this happens way too often. Alright, so the reason for keeping this in the video at all is because this is something that happens to me a lot. I decided to take a break from programming to go to the gym, and then as soon as I stop programming, I realized that I'm like dead tired and I don't really feel like I have any energy to go to the gym, and therefore I end up on the couch just procrastinating on my phone, and I get more and more tired, and then 2, 3, 4 hours have gone by and I haven't done anything, and then I feel like I need to get back to work, and so I end up doing pretty much nothing. So I thought this is a good opportunity to do something instead of doing nothing. So instead of not going to the gym and not doing anything, I'm gonna go for a walk.
That's simply a question about intelligence. Can you build machines that are that intelligent? And I think by the time we get a machine that can independently come up with that level of proofs, probably quite close to AGI. The second question is a question about consciousness.
I'm listening to the Artificial Intelligence podcast with Max Tegmark, which is a Swedish person, and I can really recommend listening to that episode and all the other episodes of the Artificial Intelligence podcast. Just a quick little tip.
Anything at all akin to human emotion, where when it accomplishes its machine goal, it views it as somehow something very positive and
right.
Alright, so now I'm able to actually save it to a JSON file. So we get this, which is a list of activities. Right now I'm just naming it the web address. So like if we're using Chrome or Firefox or something like that, then we're just gonna basically get the URL for the website that we're on, and that's gonna be the name of the activity. But what I wanna do is I wanna actually do some like string splitting, basically, where we remove this part and also this part, so that we just get the domain name, basically, and that's then going to be the name of the activity. And where this is going to happen is here, and what we want to do is we want to, when it is a website, then we want to split the string of the URL and basically get the website name. So that's what we're going to do now, and I'll get back to you when we're done. Alright, so well, it works now pretty much the way that we want it to work, but so as soon as I switch tasks, right now I'm on the terminal here, as you can see. And if I switch over to code, then I think it will add a new activity called code, and it will add the time that I've spent on here. I think I've spent probably 1 minute and 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. So if we want to test this, I'll just go into Visual Studio Code and wait a couple seconds. And yep. So then it added a new time entry to code, and that is 1 minute and 50 seconds. This basically means that we're adding, so let me try to figure out how to explain this and understand it myself. So basically it adds the time entry, but it adds the name of the activity that we moved to. So basically if we spend time in Visual Studio Code and then move to the terminal, then it'll add the time that we spent in Visual Studio Code as a new time entry, but we'll add it to the terminal. So as you can see right now, we only have one entry in the terminal category, and we've spent, I don't know, 2 minutes maybe in Visual Studio Code. What it'll do now is it'll add another entry into terminal, but what it should do is it should add another time entry into Visual Studio Code, so the code category. So if we move back here and we have a look, see it adds another entry into the terminal category and not the code category. So basically in here somewhere we're probably renaming the file too soon, and then we're adding. Yep, so I'll have to try to figure this out. Alright, so I think I fixed it. Right now it adds it in the way that we want it to add. Basically now if I open up Google Chrome here, it should just take the amount of time that I've spent here and add it as a new entry into the terminal and start counting how much time I'm spending on Google. So we're doing that. So there you go, it added a new time entry for the time that we spent here. And now let's say that we're Googling some, oh shit, that's not what I wanted. Let's say that we're Googling some stuff, we're spending time in different tabs. So I think that it doesn't really add a new time entry until we move to maybe YouTube. I'm not sure if this will work, but I think it might work. Okay, so now it added YouTube here, but as you saw, I moved between like Stack Overflow and YouTube and different websites basically. So what we need to do is we need to also check what website we're on, because right now it just checks what app we're on, and we were on Google Chrome that whole time, and it times the time that we were on Google Chrome. And then what it does is when it's time to add the time entry, it checks what the website is on right now and it adds that to a time entry. So that would be the last thing that we're going to do. We're going to just fix so that it actually tracks the sites and changes and adds new time entries for the different sites that we're on. Yes! Finally! Now it works. Now it works exactly the way that it should work. I think. I hope so, at least. Oh my god, I think we might be done, to be honest. Alright, let's stop this madness. So basically if we run this like that, then what it'll do is it will start timing. And right now we're timing the time spent in the terminal. So within the time of me talking right now, it's probably been like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that. And now if we go to Visual Studio Code, it'll change and it'll stop the timer here. It'll add a new activity called terminal, and we spent about 20 seconds in the terminal. But now we get to the really cool part, in my opinion, which is if we go here, it'll then create a new time entry here for code, because we just went from code to the to Chrome. So basically it adds code here. But if we switch tabs over to YouTube, then what it'll do is it'll add a new time entry called Stack Overflow right here. I have it on sleep for 10 seconds, so that's why there's kind of a bit of a delay. But as you see, it added stackoverflow.com right here. We spent 1 minute there. Now, if we go back to Stack Overflow again, it'll add a new time entry for how long we spent on YouTube. So let's see that. See, now it has 1 minute and 20 seconds spent on YouTube. All right, so there you go. It works. It does exactly what I want it to do. So right now we're getting the time spent on each task, and we're getting it displayed in these sort of time entries. This is really good because this actually times it automatically. I don't need to think about it. I can just browse and do whatever I want, and then it will automatically add the time entry. So there you go. It added another time entry into code. All right, so that's it. That's this 1 day build done, and I'm super happy how fast it actually went. I think it took me like 5 hours in total or something like that to actually build it and complete it. And this is probably one of the most useful things that I've built on this channel and in one of these 1 day builds, because this is something that I do every day. I always start a timer when I start working on something, and then I stop it when I stop working on that. This way I'll be actually able to just automate that stuff so that it'll automatically start the timer, end the timer whenever I go in and out of different tasks. And that's also one of the main things that's really difficult when you're using an actual timer where you have to press start and stop, is it's really difficult to remember to press start. It's really also quite difficult to remember to press stop. Usually they have some feature where it's like if you don't do anything for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, it'll actually stop itself. But the pressing start is usually something that is a bit difficult to actually do. So what I'll do now is I'll push this to GitHub, and then I'll add a link to my GitHub repository in the description of this video in case you want to use this yourself. And like I said, I think this is one of the most useful one-day builds that I've done so far. So I'm really happy with it, and I'm also excited to get started on building an app and an actual like graphical user interface for this to display different charts and graphs and all that stuff for the time spent on different things. So that's going to be coming up in a video very soon, I hope. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I truly did. This is one of those things that's just perfect for me because I love tracking stuff and being able to automate things. So being able to bring these two together and build the script is just beautiful in my opinion. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.